welcome back again to Ask IITians. Now, once we are on the verge of the completion of chapter, so I want the same energy to be there in you people at least till the completion of the chapter. Even after the completion of the chapter, I feel like you people will be good enough for the chapter. So now, in today's class, I'll be teaching you something about the practical stuff. And the practical stuff I mean to say is like we use a different kind of indicators in lab. So we'll be discussing about like during the titrations what are the indicators we are going to use in the lab. So we'll try to deal with the theory of different indicators. Not only this, I'll also tell you something about the solubility product of different salts. For example, if I say this salt is sparingly soluble in water or this salt is more soluble in water. So once people start using these less soluble, more soluble words, now you'll be becoming familiar with all these kinds of words after today's class. So let's start up with today's class. Let's now start with another topic which is termed as solubility. Now what do we mean by solubility? We say that the number of grams mole of any solute once it is dissolved in 1 liter of water at the constant temperature, this is known as the solubility of that solute. Let's say for example, if I have any particular solute and I am dissolving that solute in any particular solvent. Now, I say that the number of solute in grams which will be dissolved in 1 liter of water at a constant temperature. For example, you have a solvent and in which you are adding a solute. Then that particular number of moles of the solute which you are going to add into the solvent so that the solution which you are getting is a completely homogeneous solution. The maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved in any particular solvent at a constant temperature is known as the solubility of that solute. So I can say that the solubility of solute in moles per liter. So this is the journal unit where we represent the solubility. I can say that the solubility is represented in moles per liter. And we say that the solubility means the solubility of solute in grams per liter, which is to be divided by the molecular weight of solute. So if I simply know what is the solubility of the solute in grams per liter, so if you have the solubility in grams per liter and if you divide that thing by the molecular weight, which is nothing in grams per mole, so what we are finally getting is we'll get the solubility in moles per liter. So this is just another way in which we can define either the solubility in the terms of gram per liter or we can define the solubility in the terms of moles per liter. Now let's move ahead to discuss little more about what do we mean by the solubility product. We say that it is the product of the ionic concentration of the ions of any binary solid electrolyte in the saturated state at a constant temperature. Let's say for example, if I am considering any particular substance AB and I am saying that this is soluble in water, so it is going to give me A positive and B minus. So simply I say that the product of the ionic concentration of the individual ions of any binary solid electrolyte. So this is a solid electrolyte and this is binary because it is made up of two particular ions. So it's a binary solid electrolyte. Now once a binary solid electrolyte is there, I can say that if I find out the product of the ionic concentration of the individual ions of the binary solid in a saturated state and at a constant temperature, whatever the value I'll be getting, I'll term it as a solubility product. So let us say that there is a compound XaBy and the solubility be S moles per liter. So this means that if more than S moles are dissolved in any particular solvent, let's say for example you are considering just 1 liter of solvent and you have a compound AXBY and let's say that the solubility of this compound is S moles per liter. Now what do we mean by when I say that the solubility of any compound is S moles per liter? That means if in 1 liter of the solvent you are dissolving S moles of AXBY, it will be properly soluble. But if you dissolve more than S moles in that particular solvent, 1 liter of solvent, we say that only S moles will be soluble and the rest will be remained as insoluble, and there will be an equilibrium which will be established. Let's see how this thing is dealt in the case of ionic equilibria. I say that, for example, you have any electrolyte AB. So I say that this is in equilibrium with AB. Now this is insoluble and this is unionized. I can say that this gets broken down to A positive and B minus ions. So we say that if you have AB and you are dissolving AB in any particular solvent, according to whatever the value of solubility is there, that much amount of solute will be dissolved in the solution and the remaining amount will be left out as insoluble solute or as unionized solute. So let's say if I write this particular reaction, AB is going to form A positive and B minus. So I can write what will be the K equilibrium in this case. For this case, A equilibrium will be A positive concentration multiplied by the concentration of B minus to be divided by the concentration of AB. And I can say K equilibrium into the concentration of AB will be giving us the concentration of A positive into the concentration of B minus. Now this particular new equilibrium that I have obtained as K equilibrium times the concentration of AB, or the value which I'll obtain as concentration of A positive multiplied by concentration of B minus, this is known as the solubility product for the electrolyte AB. So we can say that solubility product is nothing but it's the product of the ionic concentration of A positive and B minus which will be obtained on the dissociation of AB. Now we can also look at certain facts. I say that if we have a saturated solution, so for a saturated solution, I can say that the value of Ksp will be equal to the concentration of A positive multiplied by the concentration of B minus. But if we say if the solution is unsaturated, so for any unsaturated solution, I can write the Ksp is greater than the concentration of A positive multiplied by the concentration of B minus. That means whatever is the ionic multiplication factor which we have observed, that means whatever is the product of A positive and B minus which we have at this point of time, the value is less than the Ksp for that reaction. That means at that point more amount of solute will be able to be dissolved in the solvent. Now if I say that if a solution is supersaturated, so as the name suggests, for any supersaturated solution, I can say that the Ksp value will be less than the concentration of A positive multiplied by B minus. That means the ionic product of the two particular ions which are available in the solvent, their multiplication or their product is the value is greater than the Ksp for the solution. So and hence we can say that as soon as this condition occurs, there will be the precipitation which gets started in the solution. So while doing the questions for the ionic product, while doing the questions for the solubility product, you have to keep in mind these three particular equations, like what will be the case if Ksp value is equal to the ionic product, if Ksp value is greater than the ionic product at that particular time, or if the Ksp value is lesser than the ionic product at that particular time. So we have to keep this thing in mind while we do the questions in the examination. Now let's talk little more about the solubility product and let's try to find out what is the relationship between the solubility and the solubility product. So let's say the equilibrium for a saturated solution of a salt AXBY may be expressed as. So what I'm saying is, let's consider a salt AXBY and I'm saying that this salt gets an equilibrium with X moles of AY positive and Y moles of BX minus. So this will be the equilibrium which will be established in the solution. Now to write the solubility product as we have defined by the definition, I can say that the solubility product will be defined as the concentration of AY positive raised to the power X multiplied by the concentration of BX minus raised to the power Y. Now, let's talk this thing and let's try to find out what will be the relationship between the solubility product and the solubility. And we say that AXBY can be further written as X times of AY positive plus Y times of BX minus. And if I say that the solubility of AXBY is S, that means in the beginning of the time at t is equal to 0, we have this 0 and this 0. And at t is equal to t equilibrium, I can say that if this is, the solubility is S, so the number of moles of AY positive will be X times S, and similarly the number of moles of BX minus will be Y times S. So I can say that the solubility KSP will be defined as the concentration of AY positive raised to the power X multiplied by the concentration of BX minus raised to the power Y. So I can say that this will be X S raised to the power X multiplied by Ys raised to the power Y. And if I solve this thing further, I can say that the KSP can be written as X raised to the power X, Y raised to the power Y multiplied by S raised to the power X plus Y. So this is the relationship between the solubility S and the solubility product KSP. So using this particular derivation, we can also consider the different cases that will be available to us according to the questions. For example, you can always find the relationship between the solubility and the solubility product for 1:1 salt, that means a salt like AB, or for 1:2 salt, that is for a salt AB2. Or you can also find for 2:1 salt, which is A2B. So there will be different types of salts which we'll be considering, and we'll try to get the relationship for the solubility and the solubility product. So these types of questions will be dealt in the examples which we'll encounter in the further slides. Now once we have moved over to the solubility product, let's talk something about what are the indicators and what are the type of indicators which are available to us, which we use in the everyday examples. So I say that an indicator is any substance which is used to determine the end point in any titration. What do we mean by a titration? Let's say, for example, you have an acidic solution. And to that acidic solution, I am adding a basic solution from outside. So I say that what amount of basic solution is required to completely neutralize the given amount of acidic solution. And that particular point where you have added enough amount of base that there is complete neutralization that has taken place. To judge that point, to qualitatively find out that point, we use a substance which is known as an indicator. So I can say that an indicator is any substance which is used to determine the end point in a titration. In acid-based titrations, which we generally encounter in the everyday life in laboratories and all, we say that the organic substances, which are generally weak acids or weak bases, these are used as the indicators. Now these organic substances have a very specific characteristic to change their color within a certain value of pH range. So if we are working in that particular value of pH change, we can say that before a certain value of pH, the indicator will be existing in one particular color, and after a certain value of pH, the indicator will exist in another particular color. So in the transition state, which is a very small pH range, there will be the change of color of indicator which is taking place, and hence at that particular transition state we will be able to find out the entire neutralization reaction has taken place. So that point is used where the neutralization will take place, or that point will be known as the end point of any titration. Now, these are some common indicators which are tabulated here and which are generally used in the day-to-day life in practicals. We say that a methyl orange is an indicator which has a working pH range of 3.2 to 4.5, and from the range 3.2 to 4.5, methyl orange is nearly pink in color in the range pH is equal to 3.2, and for the range pH is equal to 4.5, it is yellow in color. So if methyl orange is changing the color from pink to yellow, we can say that at that particular point the end point has already come because the indicator is changing its color. Similarly, for methyl red, the pH change range is 4.4 to 6.5, and then the color changes are from red to yellow. Now, for another litmus which is very important and which is generally used in chemistry labs, the indicator range is 5.5 to 7.5 and the color changes from red to blue. Let's also come over to one another indicator which is very commonly used, which is phenolphthalein. For phenolphthalein, the working range is 8.3 to 10.5. So all these above four indicators were having the working range which generally lies in acidic and kind of neutral range. But for this phenolphthalein indicator, the working range is completely lies in the basic region. And the color change is from colorless to pink. Now, since there is a very good contrast of color, because pink is actually a very good bright color and colorless you won't be able to see any color. So, it's very easy to distinguish when the endpoint has encountered, because at just before the endpoint the color will be colorless and just after the endpoint the color will be pink in color. So, it's very easy for us to analyze by the eyes that yes, now the reaction has completely taken place. Now, knowing actually what has happened and what actually takes place while we deal about the indicators, let's study what will be the working principle of phenolphthalein indicator and methyl orange indicators. So, we first of all will encounter the phenolphthalein indicator, and we say that a phenolphthalein indicator is generally represented as HPH, and it is acting as a weak acid. And if this acts as a weak acid, so there is a reaction which is taking place, and I can write HPH is going to form H positive and pH minus. Now this HPH is found to be colorless in nature, and because of this phenolate ion which has been formed, this is found to be pink in color because there is extensive conjugation which is taking place. Now, since there is an equilibrium being established, so I can write the K equilibrium reaction taking place as the concentration of H positive multiplied by concentration of pH minus to be divided by the concentration of HPH. So, we'll use this particular kind of equilibrium, and we'll keep in mind that HPH will act as a weak acid, and hence this will be used for the working principle of phenolphthalein indicator. Let's now move over to the second type of indicator, which is known as methyl orange. Now, methyl orange is a very weak base. Like phenolphthalein was a weak acid, methyl orange is a weak base, and it's a weak base, so it can be represented in the form of MEOH. And it is very easily ionized in water, and it gives and follows the equation MEOH gets to form Me positive plus OH minus. Now here the cation is found to be darker, red in color, and this MEOH is found to be yellow in color. Again, as we have considered in the earlier case, MEOH can be hydrolyzed to Me positive and OH minus, so I can write the K equilibrium reaction as Me positive concentration multiplied by the concentration of OH minus to be divided by the concentration of MEOH. So here for this methyl orange indicator, you have to take into account this particular reaction, and we can move ahead. Now let's move over to one important theory which is known as cunenoid theory. The acid-base indicators exist in two tautomeric forms having different structures. So what we can call for the case of phenolphthalein, so we can say that, for example, in one particular form will be a kind of acidic medium, and it will be colorless in nature, and this is benzoid form. Like there is no extensive conjugation in a molecule. And if there is a sudden or a very small change in the pH range, this can get hydrolyzed, and if it gets hydrolyzed, this rings open up, and if this ring open up, we can have the formation of, there is a benzene to which there is COO minus is attached. Now so there was another carbon to which there is a benzene ring which is again attached, and there will be a kind of cunenoid structure which will be taking place here. Now this cunenoid structure is actually responsible for the darker color, and hence in this case it will be pink color. So because of this extensive conjugation, the UV visible spectra gets shifted, and if there is a shift in the spectra of UV visible, so I can say it will be a very bright color. And because of this cunenoid theory, which is a very basic theory which will be used as a theory of indicators, we say that if a substance change from one tautomeric form to the another tautomeric form, there is a change in the color also. And because of the change in the color, we'll be able to analyze that now the neutralization has taken place or now the reaction has reached its endpoint. So having discussed about all the different types of indicators and the solubility product, now it's a time where we can do certain examples so as to get more confidence over the subject which we have learned. Let's first of all come to example number 1, which states that given the solubility product of F3B2 is 2 into 10 to the power minus 30, you have to find out what is the solubility in moles per liter. Let's try to solve out this question. He says that the KSP for this compound F3B2, this is given as 2 into 10 to the power minus 30. So I can say this is F3B2, I can write it to be 3 times F 2 positive plus 2 times B 3 minus, because this is just the interconversion of charge which we have done. Let me say that the solubility of F3B2 is S. So this is 0 and this is 0, and this was at T is equal to 0. Now at T is equal to T equilibrium, I can say this will be 3S and this will be 2S. So I can say the solubility product KSP will be 3S raised to the power 3 and 2S raised to the power 2. So we can say it will be 3 raised to the power 3 S cube into 2 raised to the power 2 S square. So the value can come out to be 108 S raised to the power 5. Now I can equate this value to the value given to me in the question. It is 2 into 10 to the power minus 30. Now if I solve this particular value, I can get the value of S, and the value of S in this case will come out to be 2 into 10 to the power minus 30 divided by 108 raised to the power 1 by 5. And if I solve this question and if I look at the examples which are given, so I can say that 2 into 10 to the power minus 30 by 108 raised to the power 105, this is the correct value of S. So the answer to this question is option number B. This was a question based upon the solubility product. Now let's consider another type of question which is generally asked in the exams. The question is the solubility of CaF2 in water at 20 degrees Celsius is given to be 15.6 per decimeter cube of solution. Now the solubility has been given in, this is milligrams per decimeter cube of the solution, and he has said that what will be the solubility product of CaF2. Similarly here, now we can say that since the solubility is given to you, and now we have to simply find out what will be the solubility product. So I can very easily write CaF2 will exist in equilibrium as Ca2 positive plus 2 times F minus. Let's say the solubility is S at T is equal to 0. So this is 0 and this is 0. Now at T is equal to T equilibrium, I can say this will be S and this will be 2S. So I can write the solubility product KSP as solubility of calcium 2 positive multiplied by 2S times raised to the power 2. So I can say this will be S into 4S square. So the value will be 4S cube. Now since we have obtained the relationship between the solubility product and solubility, I can say that now since the solubility in milligrams per decimeter cube has been given to me, so I can convert the solubility in moles per decimeter cube also. To get the value of solubility in moles per decimeter cube, what I'll do is to simply divide 15.6 into 10 to the power minus 3 grams. This is the value which is given to me, and if I divide it by the molecular weight, that is nothing but 78 grams per mole. So this was this grams per liter, the value was given. So this grams and grams get cancelled. So I can write what will the value of solubility, which will come out to be 2.0 into 10 to the power minus 4 moles per liter. Now putting the value of S in this equation, I can get the value of KSP to be 32.0 into 10 to the power minus 12. Now let's see if this thing is given to us in the options. So this is 4.0 into 10 to the power minus 4, 8.0 into 10 to the power minus 8, and yes, the correct answer given to us is 32.0 into 10 to the power minus 12. Let's do another question. Another question that has been given to us is a salt M2X3 dissolves in water such that the solubility is x grams per mole, x gram mole per liter. That means now the solubility has been given in the terms of moles per liter, and you have to find out what is the KSP. This kind of questions are very common and these are generally asked in exams. So for this kind of question, let me say the value given to me is M2X3. So it will always be known to exist in equilibrium as 2M plus, so we have 2M3 positive plus 3X2 minus. So if I say that the solubility is given to me as X, so let us say at T is equal to 0, this was X, 0, 0, and at T is equal to T equilibrium, we'll say this will be 2X and this will be 3X. So I can say the KSP value will be nothing but concentration of M3 positive raised to the power 2 multiplied by the concentration of X2 minus raised to the power 3. This is nothing but 2x raised to the power 2 multiplied by 3x raised to the power 3. So this is 2 into 2, 4x square, 3 into 3 into 3. 3 is a 9 and 3 is a 27 x cube. So the value comes out to be 108x raised to the power 5. Let's see if the option is there. Yes, so the option given to us is option number C. So I can say that option number C is the correct answer for this particular question. So these were the basic concepts of solubility product and the theory of indicators which we have discussed, which is actually going to be very much useful for us in the coming examinations. Students, after this class, I suppose now you people are much more aware about the different kind of indicators which we use in lab. Not only this, I have also told you about the theory behind these different kind of indicators. Also, we had a discussion about the solubility product, how the salts are going to behave in water, whether a salt will be sparingly soluble or it will be more soluble and stuff like that. Now, this was all about the theoretical as well as the normal part of the chapter. Now, once we are done till this particular part of the chapter, in the next class, I will be discussing certain last year IIT JEE questions. So I want you people to be present there in the class, because what all we have done till today's class, we are going to use this knowledge in the questions. So be very much prepared and be very confirm about yourself that yes, you'll be able to do the questions. So just have a reading of all the type of topics that I have covered, so that once in the next class, if I start with the JEE questions, you people should be able to understand the questions. So by the time, take care and read the chapter very nicely.